Welcome back. All right, news of the day video for all you fine people for your Friday, January the 27th. Almost February, and it's been not too cold, but it's supposed to get really cold here tomorrow. So, and thankfully it's hockey all day, so bring it on. Austin Matthews is out at least the next 3 weeks for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's a knee injury, the key words being at least. So it could end up being longer than that. I hope not, because Matthews has been playing well lately, but if he can come back, be 100%, and be the Austin Matthews that scored the 60 goals last year, great. I still think even missing 3 weeks, it's possible he still hits 50 goals. I would think it's even probably hits 50 goals. It's just a matter of him getting hot at the right time, and after the All-Star break is definitely the right time. So he's out of the All-Star game. Sasha Barkov's taking his place. I don't know how Barkov wasn't there the whole time. And somewhere Rasmus Dahlin's doing one of these. What do I have to do to get in an All-Star game? What do I have to do? It's not in there, right? So anyways, yeah, Matthews out for the next 3 weeks, and we'll see how long that actually takes, because it's the at least part. Now, Matty Beniers is out at least the next 2 games for Seattle. He took the hit from Myers, and I know that there were Seattle fans that wanted to see Department of Player Safety do something about that. There are definitely Canuck fans be like, oh no, don't take Myers out of the lineup. But at any rate, yeah, Beniers out for at least the next 2 games. Hopefully he does return after that. This is where the All-Star break is going to help for injuries like this. It means you're not going to miss as many games as you otherwise would. Beniers, absolutely remarkable season. I think he should win the Calder this year. That being said, if he misses enough games, if this ends up being more than 2, that could affect it. But I think it's his. I think he should win the Calder. I'm sure there'll be a lot of arguing about that, but I don't know how much there's going to be this year. There usually is some, but I don't know how much there's going to be this year about the Calder. Kuzmenko, so the 2-year bridge deal, and I get this. I totally get it from both the agent's point of view. Dan Milstein seems to be very gung-ho about what Vancouver's doing. Now, he also just got his client $11 million over 2 years. For Kuzmenko, he loves it in Vancouver. He loves the fans. He loves the city. So there's been a lot of talk about their cap problem. Their cap problems are awful. They're absolutely terrible, yes. But when you have a player who really likes playing in the city and is playing really well, it kind of reflects well. If you keep trading everybody out, eventually nobody's going to want to play there. That is a concern I would have. Plus, you're dealing with a situation where for Pettersson, he wants to see that there's still parts there for a good team. So I would think Demko in net, Hughes on the blue line, Pettersson and Kuzmenko up front. That's your core 4. Anybody outside of those top 4 likely to either be moved or, they'd be listening if there were offers made. So that's how I view it. So I understand there's a lot of cap problems, but I don't think his contract is a bad contract in comparison with other contracts. And so, yeah, and I saw a comparison of his contract with Krejci's, and I thought, apples to oranges. Krejci knows he's given the Boston Bruins a deal that he would never have given to any other team in the league. So, yeah, Kuzmenko signing, I think, is fine, and they're saying they likely could have got a first-round pick for him at the deadline. Has anybody seen the Canucks drafting record outside the top 10? What about outside the top 20? So is the team offering a top 10, not lottery-protected draft pick for him? No, those aren't the draft picks going. The draft picks that are going to get traded are likely going to be 17, 20, 30, somewhere in that region. And generally speaking, there's a lot less of a chance of them turning into a Kuzmenko, who at worst going forward should be a 20-goal scorer. So yeah, I understand completely why the team would make the move. I also understand from a fan's perspective, all these first-round picks, you got to get all the first-round picks. But outside of your stars at the top, it really is about getting value throughout the rest of the draft. It doesn't matter the round. I talked about that in the Chicago video today. Lane Peterson's been waived. I would expect moves to get made. So now that Tocchet's in charge, he is going to have different lineup decisions than Boudreau. So for Canuck fans, this may mean Nils Höglander getting called up. This should mean Podkolzin getting called up. This should mean getting a look at these guys and seeing how they play under Tocchet. Now, whether that happens before the All-Star break or after, I would expect that to happen relatively quickly. You need to see where your young players are at and whether a new coach can get more out of them than the guy you replaced. So I'm okay with Peterson being waived. I don't know if he's going to clear, though, because he was playing well for Vancouver, I thought anyways. It faded a bit, but it started pretty well, and I like Peterson. So we'll see what happens there. Cole Caufield news. This kid is tough. The guy can score goals, and he's tough. He separated his shoulder twice in the last month and popped it back in himself both times. Now, from what I understand, the more times you do that, the easier it is for that to happen. That becomes a problem then it's a chronic shoulder problem. So he's having surgery, and he thinks surgery is the best move here in order to make sure that the shoulder's properly fixed. Again, I understand you can pop it back in, but it has to be really, really painful. So the fact that he was doing this and then still like, yeah, no, I'm good, I can play the next game, that's a pretty tough player Montreal's got there. Sure, he was a bit small in stature, and that caused him to drop at the draft, but Montreal's got themselves a keeper with Caufield. I also will say that when I hear this, I'm thinking, it makes some sense then that maybe Suzuki's having a hard time. Teams playing against Montreal might have been like, Caufield seems a bit off. We can just shut down Suzuki then, right? So, and I do think that with some of Suzuki's stats being lacking lately, it's just teams are keying on him. It's easy when you don't have that many players to key on in Montreal. So for Calgary news, this is a rough one. Tanev's been put on the IR. It's an upper body injury, so Daryl Sutter saying he's going to miss the next couple of games. We'll see what happens after that. Brett Ritchie's been taken off of the injured reserve. Tanev is a fantastic shutdown defenseman, always has been. And so Calgary's going to miss him on the blue line. He does get hurt. It's part of his game. It's just, he's going to be a guy who's always playing hurt anyways, and sometimes those injuries are going to take him out of the game for a while. So we'll see how many games he misses. I know that was a sticking point for Canuck fans often when they would talk about whether or not they wanted to keep him, was that he would get injured a lot. But to me, when he was in the lineup, he was so good, I thought it was worth the risk. Buffalo. What a remarkable run by Buffalo lately. They're now 2 points out of the wild card spot. They're 2 points behind Pittsburgh. And so for Buffalo right now, they're ahead of Florida by 3 points, and they're right back in it. They've been hot and cold this year. But outside of that 8-game losing streak they had towards the start of the season, they've had a really solid record. So Buffalo might be one of those teams that's kind of flying a little bit below the radar. I don't know how much longer they're going to be flying below the radar. If they can keep this up, yeah, they could very well be a playoff team. I did jinx them on the 2nd of January, though, when I said I thought they'd make the playoffs. They lost some games, so I apologize to Sabres fans for that. Columbus news today. Nyquist is out indefinitely. It's an upper body injury. He was injured versus the Oilers on Wednesday. Nyquist may very well have been a trade bait move at the deadline, but now that he's out indefinitely, odds are that's completely off the table. Nyquist has had... so last year he had a rough first half. The second half of the season I thought he was really good. This year it's been more of a mixed bag all around. But yeah, it still sucks to lose a veteran for that long. So that may be the end of the season for him. They haven't, although they would probably say if it was season ending if it was, but indefinitely likely just means they're not quite sure yet. So yeah, Gustav Nyquist, it may be easy to overlook that he's still in the National Hockey League because his numbers haven't been stellar and he's in Columbus, all of that. But yeah, he's played relatively well. A signing yesterday that I didn't have on the board yesterday, but I want to talk a bit about. So Ben Harper signs a 2-year extension worth $787,500. Next year, the salary cap floor for a contract, $775,000 a year. So he's making a little bit above league minimum, barely above league minimum, and immediately people are like, "That's it. I don't understand the Rangers. This guy's terrible." Harper is not a great NHL defenseman. I don't think anybody would state that he's, a top 4. But as an extra, as a guy who's probably going to get waived, one of my favorite things in the National Hockey League when it comes to contracts is when a guy gets signed and a team says, well, this is dumb and this is stupid, and I don't know what you're doing, this guy should just be gone. Then they get waived, the guy gets claimed on waivers. And Harper is a player who has, I'm pretty sure he's cleared waivers this year to go to the AHL. So I don't see any downside to this. Yes, it's one of the 50 contracts. You have a 50 contract limit. But, I mean, if he's in the AHL, which is likely where he ends up next year, they just want to keep him around. They probably like the player. Maybe he has, with his experience, the ability to impart some knowledge to the kids in the AHL. And keep in mind, too, Some of your best coaches, the best people at teaching the game, aren't necessarily the ones that are the absolute superstars at playing the game. I especially find that fascinating with goalie coaches. Some of the big name goalie coaches in the NHL are guys who, as goaltenders, didn't have stellar careers, but they're very good at teaching the position. So when I see a veteran like Harper signing a 2-year extension like this, I just see it that the Rangers want him part of the organization, whether that's as a number 7 defenseman, whether that's in the American Hockey League helping to mentor a young defenseman coming up. I don't see any harm in it, but again, with the internet being as it is, there will always be the, well, this is stupid. And it happens on every single signing. And it is one of those things that's always interesting to me. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.